Welcome to Something to Talk About from the Bainbridge Island Senior Community Center. Today we are going to be meeting with Tressa Johnson, the Adult Services Librarian at one of the Adult Services Librarians at KRL, Kitsap Regional Library, Bainbridge Island. And we're grateful for Fieldstone Communities of Bainbridge Island for sponsoring these programs. They offer day stay and respite programs. They have memory care, and they're building an assisted living and independent living on their beautiful property up on Rolling Bay. To learn more or schedule a tour, call 360-689-4314. Also, we make a point of acknowledging as we begin that we are meeting on the ancestral homelands of the Coast Salish people, specifically the Suquamish tribe, the people of the clear salt water. We honor them and we are grateful for their hospitality. So, Tressa, we're going to talk a little bit today about Wi-Fi, which is everywhere, and yet it's not the same everywhere you connect. There are different rules depending on where you're using Wi-Fi.
That's absolutely right. And public Wi-Fi is public, so it bears some thinking about. It's worth thinking about. As I do when I give these little talks on technology, I like to talk about what right off the bat what other resources are, and that is because while I have a solid foundation of technology topics, it doesn't take long before you ask questions that are a little above me. So, and there are always questions that arise. So I'm going to take the screen for a moment. So the first thing that I want to do, there are two wonderful sources of assistance at the Bainbridge Island Senior Community Center. Actually, there are significantly more than that. And I want to show you where there is a gentleman, John Chen, who once a month comes to the Senior Center and provides a talk on technology for Something to Talk About. They're recorded and available for you to watch following the initial filming. So I'm going to show you where to find those. We are at the website biseniorcenter.org. I'm going to come over here in the middle of this horizontal menu bar and click on Learn More. And then I'm going to click on Program Videos. So here you can enjoy the distraction of watching all of these wonderful videos that the Senior Community Center has posted for us to view. If you go all the way to the bottom, you will see Tech Talk with John Chen. If you scroll your mouse over the video, I'm not clicking anything, you can see a little bit about what he is going to discuss in each of those videos. Okay. And I'm going to come over here to the right. If I click on this arrow, then you can see there are additional videos. Okay. And while I'm here, I'm going to scroll up just a smidge, because here we have some short videos. They're under 3 minutes, about 2 minutes long, on some very basic adjustments that you can make to your phone that may make it a little bit easier to use. So I want to point out that as a resource. Another resource is Silver Tech Tutoring, which is the Bainbridge Senior Community Center is working with Bainbridge Youth Services to put together teen volunteers to support us as we learn more about technology. Twice a month during the school year, the high school volunteers come down to the Senior Community Center, and the space for this program is based on the number of volunteers. So just call the Senior Community Center, get on their list, tell them what kind of device you have, and then they will give you a call. Okay, with that long spiel, I'm going to jump into public Wi-Fi. specifically. So Wi-Fi is a radio signal, right, that connects us to the internet. A network is a Wi-Fi signal that multiple people can get to the internet using that network, using that Wi-Fi signal. The word network is also used when you are referring to any connection. At home, you may be the only person there, you're one person, you get on your Wi-Fi connection, it's still referred to as a network. There are several places where you can access Wi-Fi for free. Lots of places. On the island, we have the Kitsap Regional Library. We have public Wi-Fi available starting at 4 o'clock in the morning until 10 p.m. at night. And the Wi-Fi signal goes beyond our building to include our parking lots. So if you need to access Wi-Fi, you can, and the library is closed, you can be in our parking lots and still use it. The Bainbridge Senior Community Center. Oh, and Reed, I see you have a question.
Yeah, well, I'm wondering, do you have a password on that public Wi-Fi at the library?
Thank you for asking. We do not have a password, but we do have something that you have to do before you get onto our Wi-Fi. It's a bit of protection for the folks that are using the library Wi-Fi. I'm going to address that in a few minutes. And actually, it's the same situation, I believe, with the Senior Community Center.
Yes, but we also have a password, which is
Right.
Prime Life, PRIMELIFE. The P and L are capitalized. And it's only good for a day. We, like the library, we refresh it overnight. And so you have to log in each time you come.
Yep. That's Prime Life, all one word, no spaces, capital P, capital L. Yep. And you'll also find public Wi-Fi available at, as you know, cafes, hotels, airports. So you find it everywhere, in many places. So it's worth thinking about. So what are the risks of public Wi-Fi? Why should you be concerned? What are the risks? That is a difficult question to answer because it depends a little bit on your unique situation. So I think of it as a threat assessment. So every time you go onto Wi-Fi, you can do a threat assessment. It's the basic first level of safety. And it is thinking about where you are and what you are doing. So, for example, are you at the Bainbridge Library or are you at the Los Angeles Downtown Main Public Library? The threat may be different between those two places. If you are in the Missoula Airport or O'Hare in Chicago, you know, you may make different choices depending on what that where you are and where you're accessing the Wi-Fi signal. So that's where are you? The second question, what are you doing? You want to think about, well, am I doing something? Am I accessing private information that I wouldn't tell my neighbor or that I wouldn't share with other people? Medical, anything health related, banking, anything that uses a password, just consciously, it doesn't mean that you, I'm not telling you what to do, but these are things to think about for yourself in terms of what you do in that moment using the Wi-Fi signal. Okay, so that, I think of that as the first level of safety on public Wi-Fi. It's a threat assessment. So with that, I want to talk about a little bit about the Wi-Fi at Kitsap Regional Library And there it's related to how it relates to the Wi-Fi too at the Senior Community Center. Now at Kitsap Regional Library, there is no password. When you connect to our network, the Wi-Fi network that we provide for free, there is a pop-up screen that comes up, and you can't connect to the Wi-Fi until that pop-up screen comes up. And the pop-up screen is basically says you're on a public Wi-Fi channel, and to be aware, make sure you know that it is a public Wi-Fi network, and you click the accept button and you're on. So what that does is, it was described to me by my colleague in the IT department as it's like thinking about a gated community versus a house that's just right on the highway. So you have a little bit of protection. You're in a gated community, but someone can get over that if they really wanted to. Does that make sense? The Senior Community Center, in a similar way, I suppose it must be an encrypted line because you need a password. Is that correct? Okay, so me just saying yes. So the Wi-Fi at the Senior Community Center is encrypted, so you need a password to get on. The library, it's not encrypted, but it goes through a secure router, which is why you have to click the accept button, acknowledge that it is a public line. So just wanted to review that, so you know kind of what we're offering.
And it's so easy to get into these words that are not understandable about, like, say, encrypted or secure line.
Right.
But let's just say that a secure line is better than no security, which is where it would be if you didn't have that sort of password or that sort of entrance field. And encrypted means that it's less likely that your transmission might be noticed by or be decoded by somebody. But in both cases, it's not impossible.
That's
and you're
right.
better off if you're better off in a password environment where only you know the password, than where you're sharing a password with anybody who happens to look at the sign that's sitting outside the senior center.
Right.
Or or cups, or Starbucks, or whatever.
Yeah. That's right. Thank you for explaining that. There is so much technology. There's so much vocabulary in technology, and to a certain extent, I lose track of what is jargon and what is not. So thank you for jumping in. So what can you do to protect yourself? Now we have an understanding of what a Wi-Fi network is, and two different types of public Wi-Fi, right? So what is it how can you protect yourself? And part of knowing how to protect yourself is knowing what the danger is, or knowing what you're protecting yourself from, so that you know what will be effective. So there are three main types, crimes, basically. Essentially, the first two are essentially forms of eavesdropping. So there's one called man in the middle, which is basically there is a connection. When there's the connection made, information is going from point A, a computer, to point B, which might be a website on the internet, right? So man in the middle is when a stranger can kind of jump in while between them and see what you're doing on that website. So to protect yourself from that, there is at the beginning of every, my understanding of this is very basic. So thank you for bearing with me. At the beginning of every URL or address that tells you the website that you are visiting, there are, and it's invisible to us at this point most of the time, there are letters HTTPS. And I think, and the S stands for secure. So you want those letters to preface the address of the website you're visiting. Now, I just told you it's invisible to us most of the time. So how can you know? There are two ways that you can know. One is, and actually I'm gonna share my screen for this. So there, it depends. Okay, so I'm gonna go to the top of the screen and I'm gonna go to the home page here. So in the upper left-hand corner, you can see is the website address here, and there's nothing in the beginning that says HTTPS. However, you can see this lock just to the left of it, and that tells you that this is a secure site. Okay, so that a person can't watch what you are doing on this website. Now, sometimes, depending on the software that you're using to get to the internet. So I personally, if we look at the bottom of the screen here, you can see I used Chrome, the beach ball. So that this software is set up. So that's why I'm looking in the upper right-hand corner. Sometimes it's in the upper left-hand corner. Sometimes the lock might be on the right side, but that's generally what you're looking for. Now, I'm going to come here to the address. I just clicked on it once, and I'm going to click on it twice, and it shows me the entire address, and there is the HTTPS. The lock is enough to know. Okay, and if you do see the HTTP, or the lock is not present, you want to, again, the threat assessment. Well, what am I doing on this website? Where am I? And just make an informed decision about what you might do at that time. Information is empowering. So there's another form of eavesdropping. HTTPS also protects against that. It is more uncommon because it requires a specialized tools, and that is for a form of eavesdropping that's a little bit more serious. They get on the line. They can not only see what you're doing, but they can learn what you're capture your login credentials and that sort of thing. Then there is the danger of a malicious hotspot. And this is something particularly when you're traveling, when you go to an airport or a hotel. So I'm going to take a step back. When you go to a hotel, you want to use the Wi-Fi and you ask them what their Wi-Fi network is. So then you go to your room and you open up your device and you look to see where that network is. You want to connect to it. What a malicious hotspot would be a network. You get a list of possibilities, and it may be basically they're trying to have you make a mistake. So say you're staying at the Good Night Inn, the network might be Good Night with an I, but someone has set up a malicious hotspot that they would like for you to click on, which is spelled with a Y, Good Night with a Y. So particularly when you are logging on to or a network that is public, you want to take your time to read through the names of the networks and just make sure that they are that you know what you're clicking onto. Okay. I am going to show you some resources on on a PowerPoint slide because I think it makes it a little bit easier to talk about. So over on the left-hand side, you can see there's the threat assessment. On the bottom, I've written down some information about Silver Tech and John Chen's Tech Talks. Here in the box, that's what I want to address right now. So these are some steps that you can take. And I've addressed some of them. I've addressed, for example, the threat assessment, HTTPS, thinking about, what it is that you're doing on the line. You can log out of an account when you're done using it. That will be, that is a form of protection. When you're done, turn off the Wi-Fi in your settings, particularly if you're traveling. That's turn off your Wi-Fi altogether. So these are all steps that you can take. So this is very basic public Wi-Fi protection. These are what I've talked about are the things that I have noticed in my work in the library. These are things that people don't know about. It's hard to know what you don't know until you realize you didn't know it. So that's why I share this initial view into the world of public Wi-Fi.
So it seems to me like maybe one of the biggest risks would be logging on to what you called a malicious or spoofing Wi-Fi, where it's basically somebody who has set up an account to get you onto the internet, but they're scooping up information. So when you type in a password, they can see it as well as you. And so they're stealing your information. It's a little bit like those things that you've heard about at some gas stations where somebody will modify the gas station reader card so they can read your credit card when you're just filling up with gas. That seems to me to be, of the threats you've talked about, probably the biggest risk. I mean, in terms of one event, obviously, you could have, I guess, somebody who's monitoring or has figured out in a Starbucks how to sort of get access to the network, and they're just riding along trying to capture information.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That's exactly right. Reed, I feel like we should advertise these tech talks as co-led by you and I both. You don't get enough credit for.
Don't worry, I get plenty of credit. I'm fine. Anyway, you're a bigger draw, so there you go.
Well, well, I wanted to leave this up for a few minutes. There's a lot of writing, and I know when, particularly when we're talking about technology, there's jargon, there are, it's hard to remember things when you're hearing them for the first time. So I did want to leave this up for a few minutes, but that concludes the information I had to share on public Wi-Fi. Yes.
Yeah, here's a question.
This is Susan Lick. I just wanted to comment that it's been a while now, but when my daughter showed me how to do a screenshot of my computer, it was a long time coming. It's been so helpful for talks, just like you have, because now I have a screenshot of this. I don't have to write the notes down, and I'll just print it afterwards and add it to my file. So I appreciate that. And also the fact that, you say your level isn't high in tech. I think that's why it makes your presentation so understandable and helpful by us. So thank you.
Thank you, Susan. Thank you for saying that.
I went to school for a little while on learning how to be a teacher, and one of my instructors said to me, if you're having a hard time figuring out a concept, go to the library and go to the children's section and look for a book about that topic written for children, and you will have a great context for what then you can go back and read the read the more complicated book, and you have something to put it into.
Oh, I love that. That's exactly what I do. In fact, I'll tell you what I used to think was a secret, but I no longer keep it secret. I'm going to stop sharing first.
Okay.
I facilitate a book group at the Senior Community Center, and this was several years ago. The group was interested in reading a classic, and I chose Dickens' Tale of Two Cities, which happened to be a book I was supposed to read in high school.
Yeah.
And I really didn't want to read it. So what I did was I went to the children's section and I looked for adaptations of the story. I read graphic novels that were made from that story. And then the weekend before book group, I opened up Dickens' work and I started to read, and I absolutely loved it. I couldn't put it down. The writing, I was laughing out loud. His use of words was just so phenomenal. But having that background, understanding of what the story was and who the characters were and what their relationship was, I could really just jump into the reading and how the story was being told as well.
So let's see. I'm wondering if you can tell us anything about the work that's going on the KRL website.
Yes, I am very excited. So the library, Kitsap Regional Library, has for probably over a year, been looking at how to update our digital presence. In other words, they wanted to update our website so that it was easier to use and more friendly for our users. So we have right now they're just starting a staff preview, so the website is not complete. They're still adding information to it, specifically some activities, events. There are a few typos that we're catching. I mean, little things. The public is going to have a sneak, a month to have a preview of the site, and that will begin on April 3rd. So I'm scheduled to come and talk here at Something to Talk About on April 12th. So I'll be going through a virtual tour for us. The big celebration, the go live date is May 3rd. So anything you see in April, there may be some changes, but it will be generally what we expect it to be. I'm really excited about it. I think it is, I only just opened it up and started to really explore it yesterday. When you first go on the website, there are book lists right away. You can scroll down. I mean, it's just so book centered. It makes me very, very happy. The system that we have chosen, it's called Biblio Commons, and it is a system that's used by many libraries around the country, including Seattle Public Library and King County Public Library. So you may, if you go to those websites at all, you may see similarities. You will see similarities when our site goes live. One of the benefits of Biblio Commons is that it allows for the creation of a community of readers. So you can write book reviews to be posted on the website. You can rate different books, give them a star rating, which is fun. It's fun to read.
And I'd much rather do that at your library than on Goodreads, owned by Amazon, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. So I'm really excited about the possibilities. So I was hoping I could give you a preview today. And unfortunately I can't do that, but
you gave us a, what do you call it? You told us with words.
You've got
You
the
do-
inside scoop.
There you go. And we know when to come back to get the visuals.
That's exactly right. April 12th. I'm looking forward to it.